You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them.
This is Massive Late Fee with Mike and Mark.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me, as always, is my co-host Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm okay. If I seem a little bit grumpy today, it's because my wife and I are quitting smoking. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that's good though.
and if my brain doesn't work as fast as it normally does, not that it works that fast anyway, that's probably why. Because smoking kills you, but it's a great nerve synapse stimulator. But anyway, I guess speaking of dying, uh, R.I.P. Bob Einstein. Many of you probably know him as Super Dave Osborne if you grew up around the era that Mike and I did. Some of you may know him as Marty Funkhauser from Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's the guy that talks like this. Now here's what you're gonna do. But he unfortunately passed away after an extended illness, and as many of you know, we're fans of Norm Macdonald. He appeared on Norm Macdonald's Live on YouTube, the show that Norm had before he had the Norm Macdonald Has a Show on Netflix, and he was absolutely brilliant on Norm's show. They were good friends and worked well together. You should do yourself a favor and check out that YouTube thing with Bob Einstein, Super Dave, as Norm always insists on calling him. But yeah, sad news, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I mean, he's an older person. I didn't know he was ill or anything like that. That is sad. He was on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's hilarious. Every time he's on screen, I'm just like, oh, this is going to be a great episode, and it always is.
Yeah, he certainly had very good comedic timing. He started out writing. I know he wrote for the Smothers Brothers and some other shows. I think he wrote for Dick Van Dyke's revival show in the 70s. Then, obviously, in the 80s, he became more popular as a performer as Super Dave. Basically, for anyone that doesn't know, was like a parody of Evil Knievel or some sort of Daredevil type person like that, where basically all of his stunts would always fail. But it was quite, I'm not huge into physical comedy, but I always enjoyed that one. So, R.I.P. Bob Einstein, survived by his brother Albert Brooks, because I guess he doesn't want to go by Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
But that is his real name. They are related to the famous Albert Einstein, the physicist, in some way. I'm not sure exactly how, cousin or great great uncle or something like that. But yeah, sad news there. More sad news for you, Mike, because I know that you are an enormous fan of the Star Trek movies, the new J.J. Abrams produced Star Trek movies that have come out. That's your jam, right?
No, I haven't seen them, and I won't, and I hope they bankrupt the studio.
Well, apparently you're getting your wish because Star Trek 4 has been shelved by Paramount. They will not be producing it anymore. I know they had some problems with both Chris Evans and Chris Pine. They were not Chris Evans. I'm sorry. Chris Pine. I can't keep my Hollywood Chris's straight. Chris Pine, who played Captain Kirk, and Chris Hemsworth, who was going to come back, who in the first movie played a very small role as Captain Kirk's father, who died, and he was going to come back in the new movie. I think there was some sort of time travel or something involved in it. But the movies the first one did pretty well. After that, they haven't done extremely well monetarily wise, so Paramount is shelving it, and obviously they're doing some stuff on TV. I don't know if you've heard, Mike, but Captain Picard is apparently coming back in a new Star Trek show that's going to be on CBS All Access. I don't know exactly what that's going to be, if he's still going to be in Starfleet in some way, or if he's going to be retired. Maybe it's just going to be him picking grapes on his, winery farm.
That would be fun. I wouldn't watch anything, but I do like the one Star Trek thing I like is the Family Guy episode that has the cast of Star Trek.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because just like Star Trek is just like seeped into like general knowledge, so I know enough about it to kind of know what the characters are and stuff.
Right.
It's just like a hilarious episode of them just being like the most annoying people ever.
That is a good episode. I like when they're going to the fast food place and Picard is so mean to Will Wheaton and everything. Like the whole thing is just funny. But yeah.
Wasn't Quentin Tarantino going to direct this one?
Actually, this one was going to be directed by a woman. It was going to be the first time that a woman directed a Star Trek movie. CJ, what is her name? CJ something. But now she's moving on. This is one of the indications of why they're shelving it, because she's moving on to the Game of Thrones prequel. So she will be directing there, and now won't be directing this. CJ Clarkson. I'm sorry, SJ Clarkson. So,
yeah, I don't know.
But yeah,
Quentin Tarantino was supposed to direct this, but for some reason not doing it anymore.
He was going to direct another one. Basically, I think the way they envisioned it playing out is that S.J. Clarkson was going to direct this one, the fourth movie, and he was going to direct a one that's not tied into the franchise, a Star Trek movie, but not necessarily tied into the franchise. I was interested to see what he would do with a Star Trek movie, but
same here. What's weird is he did some rewriting for the movie Crimson Tide. I don't know if you ever see that. It's just such a weird movie for him to have dialogue in. But yeah, it's just it would have been interesting. I still don't think I would have seen it, but I am a big Quentin Tarantino fan.
But speaking of things that you're not a fan of, no, I think actually you might like this. I saw a trailer for a new show on Netflix called Sex Education. It stars Gillian Anderson from The X-Files, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up. But basically, Gillian Anderson plays the mom, and she's a sex therapist, and Asa Butterfield, who's a good actor. I've seen him in a few different things. I like him a lot. He's her son, and he's starting high school, and he and his friend decide that they're going to become popular and help people out and everything, since everyone in high school is thinking about sex or having sex or whatever, that he's going to basically play sex therapist to the students in the school and collect money from them. It's a way for this one girl to make money and for him to, I don't know, be a sex therapist. But it looked very funny. I like it. I think it's going to be very good. I liked a lot of what I saw in the trailer. So that is coming out, I believe, towards the middle of this month, any day now. I believe it comes out the 11th. So it will be the day after this airs.
What station is it on again?
It's Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, I might watch that then. I think he was the kid who was in Ender's Game. I think is Ender. He was pretty good in that.
That's right. Yeah, and I like Jillian. I like her a lot. So I think that
I have to say, I think it's I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it's a shame that Ender's Game wasn't a more popular movie, because it was actually a really good, surprisingly good adaptation of the book.
Yeah, I liked the movie a lot. I've read the book.
There's controversy over Orson Scott Card, which is probably what led to a lot of issues with it.
He doesn't like gay people very much. But yeah, that's kind of controversy there for sure. But the overall story and everything I thought was pretty good, and Harrison Ford seemed at least like he was kind of trying in the movie.
He was a really good choice for that role too. That's someone I would have never thought of, but as soon as I heard he was going to play him, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a perfect choice.
Yeah. Grumpy Gramps Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I really like the book, and like a couple of the other books. I mean, I didn't read the whole series. I mean, it was a really good adaptation of like a classic, youth like science fiction book, or really not even youth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wish they had more. I wish there were more science fiction movies like that out there. A lot of science fiction today is sort of like action science fiction. They're science fiction elements mixed with basically action movies, and I wish that there was more straight sci-fi, but I think a lot of audiences today would find stuff like that boring.
Yeah,
The other bit of news that I had today was that Idris Elba is going to be one of the headliners at Coachella, the music festival, because apparently Idris Elba is quite the DJ artist, or whatever they call him, DJ star. He started when he was around 14, and for a while, that's all he was doing was being a DJ. Excuse me, until he became a movie star, obviously. But he still goes back to it from time to time, and he's focused a lot more on it recently, apparently, and he's in demand in a lot of different places. I assume
yeah,
not just for his fame.
yeah. That's like surprisingly lucrative, like the DJing like field.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the top entertainers, like often like the top, few will be DJs.
Yeah, and apparently he's very good. So he will be at Coachella along with everyone else that is performing there. Coachella is not something I really follow too closely, but
Yeah, same here.
but yeah. So it'll be interesting to see him Stringer Bell to be a DJ. The other thing that happened, and I'm sure you did not watch this, was the Golden Globes.
I watched like a little tiny bit of it.
Oh, sweet. Mike sacrificing for the podcast. I saw a lot of people were upset that the Queen movie won the best movie award. A lot of people assumed Rami Malek would win best actor because he did a very good job as Freddie Mercury, but a lot of people did not like, because it was up against Black Klansman, Black Panther, If Beale Street Could Talk. The Beale Street movie is one that I have not seen yet, but I want to see that. And when Oscar time starts to roll around towards the end of this month and everything, when the nominations come out, I'm sure, end up watching that. I usually end up watching as many of the movies that are nominated as I can, and then writing some articles and prediction stuff about it. So that's one that I'm definitely going to check out. But yeah, a lot of people were upset about that. You haven't seen the Queen movie yet, have you?
I haven't seen any of the movies you mentioned, no.
Yeah, that's
and I
true.
have no intention to see any of them.
We might have to talk about the Oscars, Mike. I might have to bring in a special guest.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, so I watched that. I thought it was fairly interesting in certain parts. Andy Samberg and Sandra Oh hosted, and they did about as good of a job, I guess, as you can do being the host. They didn't get in the way, and they were mildly funny. It's very. I don't like criticizing people who host the Oscars or the Golden Globes or things like that, because that's a really difficult job. There are not many people that can do it well.
I could do it.
Well, that's true. Mike should be hosting the Oscars this year, I think. Kevin Hart was on Ellen. Did you see anything about that?
I saw like a headline that Kevin Hart was on Ellen and like she wants him to be the host now or something. I don't really understand or care about any of this.
Yeah, they had a big conversation about what happened, and she basically said what you said on the podcast, was that he'd apologized for it already. It was in his past. It didn't really matter, and she loves him and thinks that he should host the Oscars, which I thought was at least positive, as opposed to just people, ganging up on someone pitchfork style and trying to.
That's refreshing for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked it as far as that. I think Ellen is pretty cool. I like her I like her attitude. I don't know a ton about her, but I like her attitude on this stuff. Just having a conversation and being like, look, she was really lobbying. You should go back and do it. I don't think he's going to, but
Yeah, I think. I mean, I wouldn't watch it because he would be the host, but I think he'd be a good host. At least
Mhm.
better than average. Usually, when they have a stand-up comedian, they're the better of the hosts.
Yeah, the best hosts of the Oscars that I ever saw, and obviously this was kind of before I was born, but I've seen stuff on YouTube, is Bob Hope. I thought was really good, and he used to do it all the time, like almost every year. And Johnny Carson, when he did it in the '70s, I thought was very good. And part of the reason Johnny Carson was so good at doing it is because some of the best Johnny Carson monologues, for anyone old enough to remember his show, were ones where the jokes didn't work and he kind of bombed. He made it funnier to bomb than to actually deliver successful jokes. So that's sort of the skill that you need, is to be able to make jokes that don't totally work entertaining, because there's a lot of them in these award shows. But next we'll get into what we're watching. It kind of dovetails well with the Golden Globes talk. I watched Roma, the movie on Netflix from Afonso Cuarón, about the I what's
Gypsies.
no it's a it's about a I don't want to say maid, like domestic worker in Mexico City during the '70s, and it's based a lot on his life growing up in Mexico City during that time, and the domestic servant that his household had, who he loved but sort of took for granted or didn't really see as a whole person. So it's kind of about her life, and it's very good. I like the movie a lot. It's black and white, which is one of the things that I really do not like about the movie at all. Because I don't know if you'll agree with me on this or not, Mike, but I would say the late '60s and the '70s are maybe some of the most colorful times that we've ever lived through, as far as fashion goes. Architecture, art, the way things were decorated, everything was bright, vibrant colors, and I thought it was really weird to film this. And maybe Mexico was different during that time, but I really don't think so. But I thought it was very odd to film this in black and white, given how colorful of an era it was. It didn't really feel like a movie from the '70s. It felt much older than that. So I didn't love that about it. There were a couple other things that I didn't love about it. I don't rave about it as much as a lot of people who have seen it, but I thought it was a solid film. What have you been watching this week, Mike?
Well, I finally finished, after starting it about a month or so ago, the series Justified.
Okay. How
It was,
did Justify get the guy?
no, not exactly at the end, but it was. No, he kind of did, but kind of didn't. It was a really satisfying ending, though. It like wrapped up nicely. It wasn't like Justified, like drives a boat into a hurricane and ends up in Oregon or something like that.
being
Nothing like that.
being a logger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing stupid like that. I mean, no, it was a really good series. I mean, it was like a really good adaptation of an Elmore Leonard, idea, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's Elmore Leonard is one of my favorites. I assume that the dialogue in the show was very good and sharp.
Oh yeah, it was, yeah.
Because Elmore Leonard is, for those who haven't read Elmore Leonard is probably most known for his dialogue. Very, very good writer of dialogue.
Yeah, like he had a direct influence, but I think he had passed away before the series had wrapped up.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely were. Yeah, in fact, I believe there was a dedication to him at the very end of the series.
Okay.
Yeah, the writers definitely were fans of him, or at the very least took a lot of his suggestions, to heart, because it was very Leonard-esque, which is not a bad thing at all.
No, Elmore Leonard is great. And from this area, lived in Bloomfield Hills. The other thing that I watched was Tusk, the Kevin Smith movie, because it's on Netflix, and I guess I just took the opportunity to be a Kevin Smith completist now, to have seen all his films. So I watched Tusk. It's not bad. I have to say, I was really, really surprised. Um,
Yeah, I've heard nothing but horrible things about it.
I still don't like Johnny Depp's character in it. I think that's the most jarring, dumb thing about it. It's very different from pretty much any other of Kevin Smith's movies because it's basically a horror movie. It's very dark. It's very atmospheric. I think the direction in the movie's very good, and the strength of the movie is basically Justin Long, and Justin Long is excellent in the film. Justin Long plays a podcaster who's a failed stand-up comedian who used to be this sweet guy and everything, but he's a complete asshole now. And as a podcaster, and he goes and finds these different people who have done things or whatever that have made them infamous on the internet, and he interviews them. And he was going to interview this one guy that accidentally cut his leg off doing it's like the Star Wars kid thing with the fake lightsaber, but he had a real sword and he was doing like Kill Bill moves, and he cuts off his leg. And here's another failure of the movie. Now this is completely budget wise, so that's why this happens. But when he cuts his leg off, because you actually see the YouTube video, when he cuts his leg off, it's you and I could make a better special effect than the special effect is. It looks it can't. I mean, it's sort of funny, but not horrifying in any way. And I think that's the point. The point is to be kind of sickened by what he does, and to, like, as these podcasters are laughing at him, to be like, you guys are fucking dicks. Like, to have that kind of attitude, because the characters go through an arc in this movie, and so it looks so fake. It's one of the worst special effects I've seen. But the strength of the movie is Justin Long and the guy that plays his captor and their conversations in his house, because that's sort of the underpinning of the film. Is Justin Long ends up getting captured by this guy in Canada, and he wants to turn him into a walrus, which is why the movie Tusk, because he was washed ashore with a walrus at some point in his life. And spoilers for this movie, if you guys want to watch it, don't listen to this part. He ended up having to eat the walrus right before he got rescued. He broke down and started eating the walrus. And I guess he's carried this guilt with him his entire life. So what he does is he abducts different people, tries to turn them into a walrus, and he wants them to kill him, basically. They fight, and only when they truly embody the spirit of the walrus will they defeat him. So he's killed a bunch of people doing this. But the strength of it is their conversations. And it gets really atmospheric, and it's really good as a kind of a tense, no jump scares or anything like that, but it's kind of like a tense psychological horror film. And it's very unlike a lot of things that Kevin Smith has done. I really enjoyed the movie.
I may check that out then.
But there are definitely there's definitely stuff that's dumb about it, for sure. And like I said, the special effects thing, there's some other lines here and there, jokes here and there, and stuff like that I don't think really totally fit the tone of the film. I can see a lot of little things that could have been done differently to make it a lot better of a movie. But I enjoyed it just even for that part of the conversations between the two of them, because it really does build a good atmosphere. Have you been watching anything else, Mike, this week?
No, but this week I am going to the midnight movie show to see Terminator 2.
Oh, nice.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Terminator. One of my favorite movies. I've seen it. I saw it first on the big screen, like in the when it came in the theater.
Yep, 91.
So it'd be nice to again. Yeah, something like that.
Yep, yeah, that is one of the best ones out there, obviously.
And I'm also looking forward to Glass coming out. I think it's next Friday.
Yes.
So it'll be a rarity for me going to the movie theater 2 times in 2 weeks. I can't think of the last time I did that.
Right. And we will be doing an episode on Glass when it comes out. We will watch it, and we'll give you our thoughts on it. I'm hoping it's good. I think it has the potential to be good. Obviously, I liked Unbreakable. That's probably my favorite M. Night Shyamalan film. And I thought Split was good. He's done better, but I thought it was certainly a return to more of the things that he's successful at doing. And so I hope that this one's good, but I'm really nervous, Mike, that your prediction
Yeah.
about the twist.
The more I see the promotions, the more I think I'm correct.
Oh God, man, that's gonna be. If that's the twist, I'm gonna be. I don't even want this one to have a twist. There's no need for it. Just a straight, grounded in reality superhero movie, basically, where he has to fight against these two guys. I think would be fine.
That's not what's going to happen, though.
No, I know, but Mike, way back when, I think it was the very first episode that we did.
Yeah, maybe.
When we were talking about Jungle to Jungle, brought up that he likes reading the Parents Guide on IMDb and stuff like that for different movies, and we decided that we're going to make a segment out of it. Maybe it'll be a recurring segment like all our segments. Maybe it won't be, but what we're going to do is we're going to read the parents guide, the warnings and stuff from a few different movies. And Mike, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So the first one that I'm going to do is one of my kids' favorite movies, which is Inside Out. They love this movie a lot. I enjoyed it very much. This is one of those rare Pixar ones that I saw in the theater. I actually saw it a couple different times. But so we start out, as they start out with all their parents' guides, with sex and nudity. So here's the sex and nudity in the Pixar cartoon Inside Out. As a toddler, Riley runs around the house naked after a bath. Her butt is briefly shown, parentheses, played for laughs. In the end of the movie, a new console is installed for the emotions. Disgust discovers a button labeled puberty on the console. She asks, "What is puberty?" incorrectly pronouncing it. Parentheses, played for laughs. I don't know how that, I mean, I guess that very indirectly plays into sex, but I don't know. I think that's a stretch. Finally, Riley has a nightmare in which she shows up to school not wearing pants, but only her bare legs are shown. Here's the violence and gore from Inside Out. Anger ends up punching and choking fear. Anger ends up shoving fear and disgust twice. Fear is often on the receiving end of cartoon violence, often from anger. And then characters are put into peril. Couldn't that be for just about any movie? Characters are put into peril.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a movie where a character was not put into peril.
So
not even documentaries like American Movie.
Right. So here's profanity. Anger says, "May I say the curse word now?" Which does that count as profanity? He just says, "May I say the curse word now?" He doesn't actually say it.
What?
Incomplete use of "son of a bitch" towards the end of the movie, pronounced, "This new console is the son of a," and then it cuts off. I don't know if they were going, "the son of a bitch. This new console is the son of a bitch." I don't think they were going for that phrase.
You've never heard of the son of the bitch?
Right? 2 uses of "what the heck." 1 use of "who the heck." So apparently that is now profanity. There is a reoccurring joke about the amount of swear words Anger knows but doesn't get to say. When he finally says one, it is bleeped out by fear. And then some name calling. Crazy, idiot, stupid, moron, dumb, nitwit. Pops, Weird, Old Man, etc.
Weisenheimer.
Pops and Old Man are apparently now swears.
No, they're name calling.
Yeah, I know, but that it's under the profanity tab.
I don't know.
Alcohol, drugs, and smoking, none, obviously. And then frightening and intense scenes. The last 15 minutes can be emotionally intense for many, mainly adults rather than children, as the film is about showing it is okay to be sad when life changes and people grow up. So that's a warning for the parents right there. A giant clown is featured as one of Riley's greatest fears. A major character dies by fading away. Quite sad and powerful. A dog is briefly seen apparently cut by half. It says cut by half instead of cut in half. During a nightmare sequence, the head end then chases the tail end.
Jeez.
Riley's...
Did Salvador Dali direct this movie?
Yeah. Well, it's what this is the part where they go through. It's a shortcut and they begin abstracting. But anyway, Riley's teeth fall out in a dream sequence, and in another one, a zombified rat appears in reference to a dead rat she finds in her house earlier. And those are all the things to watch out for in Inside Out.
I've never seen it, and I don't think I ever will.
It's a really good movie. You know who wrote it was he's in Barry. He used to be on Saturday Night Live.
What's his name? Bill Hader?
Yeah, Bill Hader wrote it, and he's written on South Park and stuff like that, yeah. When I found that out, after I saw the movie, and I said, that makes sense. I was like, that's why it's so good, because Bill Hader wrote it. But, yeah, that's a very good one. You got one you want to do?
Yeah, I actually went with a backup choice. I was initially going to do the movie The Dreamers, because my wife is a big fan of that movie, but oh my god, it's such a long thing. It would take me like 10 minutes to read all the objectionable content in that movie.
Okay.
So instead, I went with one of my favorites, the action/comedy Death Wish 3.
Okay.
Let's see. Like you have to start with sex and nudity.
Yeah.
And then what's weird, too, is it says moderate. Like there's moderate sex and nudity. And 2 out of 3 people found it to be moderate, so that's why it's moderate.
Okay.
So one sex scene where a woman is raped. Not too graphic. Only lasts about 40 seconds. That's what it says. Not too graphic.
A woman's raped. It's okay.
Not that graphic. I mean, yeah, it's saying, hey, if you're going to like this scene... Maybe not. You don't get to see much.
It only lasts 40 seconds, so yeah, it's barely time it's barely time to finish.
You can barely do your belt buckle in that time.
Oh god.
But yeah, not too graphic.
Oh no, it's okay.
40 seconds is so long. Have you ever seen the movie Irreversible?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a scene in there that is too graphic. Probably lasts like 2 minutes, and it's like the longest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so this is only 40 seconds. But that's a long time.
Yeah, 40 seconds is a long time on screen.
Yeah, but it's not too graphic. Right, the next one is 3 men carried a woman with intent to rape her, but are interrupted. Her breasts are briefly visible. Again, who's that for? Is that a warning or a heads up?
Right. Check it out. Her breasts. She doesn't actually get raped, so you can't wait for that scene. But her breast is briefly visible.
Yeah, if you fast forward between the 2 scenes quick enough,
Right.
And then next after those 2 is 2 kissing scenes.
Okay.
And if I recall, they're probably like the briefest. Like it's not like in depth like making out kissing. It's just like a peck.
Well, that kind of pales in comparison to the 40-second rape scene.
It kind of does.
Oh god.
And this next one in the sex and nudity category, which is only moderate, only considered moderate by the fans of the IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
A man is shown putting on his clothes in front of a naked woman, covered in bed sheets, lying in bed after they've had sex off screen. So it's just like a man dressing, I guess. Like whatever. I mean, I'm sure they're,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's tasteful.
Well, of course. You would expect nothing else from the Death Wish franchise.
This next part really blew my mind. It's rated as severe because 2 out of 3 people found it severe, therefore it's severe. 3 whole people decided, and the majority of them too
Right.
said it's severe. However, I've seen this movie and there's severe violence and gore, but I just like the way they came to that conclusion is odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
So there are several scenes of gunplay with ranging amounts of blood splatter. And then there's only one other entry. It's other instances of violence include a guy getting chopped up with an axe, obscured by a crowd of people, a guy getting his throat slashed. We only see the aftermath, not the actual slashing. And a guy stepping on some nails. Some blood is seen, and a few moments later we see his bloody foot all bandaged up. An old woman's throat is slashed. Graphic, but very brief. Mind you, there's quite a few entries in that one long run sentence, but yeah, there's also a part where a guy gets shot with a rocket launcher. They shoot him with a rocket launcher. Another part, which is probably the most fucked up thing in the whole movie, is this guy steals someone's camera.
Uh-huh.
It's actually Paul Kersey, played by Charles Bronson.
Okay.
Buys like an expensive camera. Mm-hmm. Then the guy steals it. Like he starts to ride away with it on his bike. Facing away from him, he pulls out his gun and shoots him in the back.
Yep.
Just kills him. He just outright murders a guy.
I actually have seen this movie then because I remember that scene very well.
Yeah, it's of all the Death Wish, it's like they were trying to go with comedy suddenly, and I don't understand it.
Oh.
Okay, for profanity, we have a few F-bombs here and there, including 1 or 2 use of motherfucker. Alcohol, drugs, and smoking. Some drugs are occasionally seen and used.
Nice. Well, if you're going to see him, might as well use him.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I'd be where they're occasionally used but not seen. They just were graphically describing, I just used heroin. The next category is frightening, intense scenes. Quite a few somewhat intense scenes, namely the rape, several instances of innocent people being beaten or mugged, and the long, over-the-top shootout at the end.
Oh, God. Death
The fact that they mentioned this rape in like 3 other categories makes me think it's maybe a little graphic.
Yeah.
It's very memorable for sure.
Right. Mainly that rape. Oh, God. Oh. So the other...
Like Charles Bronson's role. Holy shit, did you see that rape in this movie?
That would be funny if in the movie they just keep referencing it. Man, that rape seemed to go on for a while.
That was brutal, man.
But not moderate, just about moderate.
It's about just at the edge, not quite graphic.
Right. Oh.
Certainly not too graphic.
So the other one that I looked up is Forrest Gump, which, you think about as one of those just kind of like nice family movies and stuff like that. But, they point out some things in here that I'm like, oh, yeah, that happened. But sex and nudity, moderate. There's a lot of stuff in here. There is some sexual suggestive material as well as some nudity and a few sexual references. These scenes are detailed below. So a young woman strips down to her underwear in front of a man and asks him if he has ever been with a woman. He says no. She then takes off her bra and we see her entire bare back and catch a very quick glimpse of the side of her breast. Parentheses, no nipple. There should be like a sad face after that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
When she places the man's hand on it, the man looks away at first, but takes a peek after a few seconds. She then puts her bra back on, and he comments that he ruined the robe he was wearing, implying that he ejaculated sperm.
Oh, hi.
As opposed to ejaculating what else? He ejaculated confetti. You could just say ejaculated. That gets the point across.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh, is this guy a former classmate of mine?
Right. A man tosses another man a pornographic magazine and makes a reference to a picture inside it. The second man opens the magazine. I always love, too, how they can't specify characters or anything. It's like, we know who you're talking about.
We're just being objective here, okay?
The second man opens the magazine, and we see a quick glimpse of a picture of a topless woman as he turns a page. We then see a picture of another woman with one bare breast showing. The first image is so quick it is easy to miss. The second is somewhat blurry and small due to the location of the woman's nipple. The breast almost looks fake. This is like a criticism.
Yeah.
The first one's so quick, and the second one's blurry, and it almost looks fake. I can't do anything with this. Oh. We see a locker room scene where a man is covering his crotch with a towel, but you can see his pubic hair easily. In later scenes, you see various parts of his bandaged bottom after getting a bullet wound. So apparently, I never noticed this before because I guess I'm not as eagle-eyed as the parents that screen this for their kids or whatever. But I guess you can see Tom Hanks's pubes in Forrest Gump. I did not realize.
Okay.
A woman climbs into bed with a man. She removes her top to reveal her bare back, and they kiss passionately. Sex is implied.
Let's hope so, huh?
I was gonna say that's quite a tease. If sex isn't implied after that.
Especially if it's Forrest, you never know what he might do if he's cut off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. That's a Me Too moment waiting to happen. It is implied that a young girl is being sexually abused by her father. I don't like that this is in the sex and nudity category. Because I would rather this be in the violence category, I guess. Because, I don't know, that's to me, yes, it is definitely implied that Jenny and her sisters are being sexually abused by their father. That's not sexy in any way. So
maybe frightening and intense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A man and a woman have implied sex noisily off screen while a child listens from outside. The child later mimics the sound, the loud heaving sounds the man was making as the man leaves.
Mr. Gorpley.
Yep, that's right. Violence and gore also a lot. I mean, it's the sex and nudity was labeled as moderate. Violence and gore is labeled as moderate. But they talk about, it'll take way too long to read all this. But they talk about the Vietnam War and fighter planes drop incinerator bombs on a jungle. Weapons are fired. Several men are being shown shot. A woman implies she is considering suicide by getting up on a ledge on the side of a bridge. Let's see. An African-American man shouts at a white man that the goal of the white people is to rape and kill African Americans and destroy their communities. This is brief, but it has strong racist overtones and may be upsetting. Another racially tense scene includes a brief depiction of the 1963 stand in the schoolhouse door incident. We hear a couple of racial slurs uttered. Yeah. So, profanity. One use of fuck it. Mild use of profanity concentrated in a few scenes. 2 uses of fucking, non-sexual context. 10 uses of the word shit, one of which is in writing. Around 30 uses of religious profanity, including goddamn. Around 5 uses of sexual terms, mostly in reference to breasts, including tits. 1 use each of coon and... should I say it? It's the N-word. I mean, I'm just reading it.
I'm not part of what you do here, so...
I'm not going to say it, but you know what word I'm referring to. But, yeah.
See, isn't it worse that you made me think it?
Yeah, I know. The Louis.
You had to make me complicit in your cowardice.
Alcohol, drugs, and smoking. There's certainly a lot of that. Also moderate. A woman is shown snorting cocaine. We don't actually see the cocaine, but we see her hair covering it and her just about to snort it. It is later implied that she had just injected herself with heroin. Cigarettes are shown in an ashtray in a hotel room. That seems... those two things, side by side, the juxtaposition of a woman snorting heroin or snorting cocaine after just having injected heroin, and then cigarettes are shown in an ashtray, just don't seem to go together. Bongs, ashtrays, bottles of pills, needles, and other drug paraphernalia are shown a couple of times. We never see them being used, however. So I guess they're not used. A man smokes a cigarette and drinks alcohol in several scenes. Because he just got his legs blown off. Frightening and intense scenes, also moderate. This is the first thing that it says. A very emotional film. So is that a warning? I don't get.
I don't know. I do like how you said because he had his legs blown off.
Right. So he started.
You're clearly with Lieutenant Dan on this. You justify his behavior.
Yeah, I would be an enabler for Lieutenant Dan.
Like, well, you think you want to kill someone? Well, you think your legs blown off,
right? Hey, look, it's owed to you. You had to go through this. A very emotional film. Most of the drug use, sexual material, and other such content in the movie is more implied than actually shown. A war scene in Vietnam is quite violent and has gunfire, explosions, and shouting. Yeah, the shouting is the frightening part of that.
I found that quite objectionable.
Some bloody wounds are shown, and at least one man is killed. It's more than one guy's killed. Soldiers are later seen seriously injured, and some with missing limbs and bandaged in a hospital. A man's legs are amputated off-screen as a result of what happened in the aforementioned Vietnam War sequence, and he is for some time depicted as being bitter and depressed, and as having turned to alcohol to deal with his loss. Well, do you fucking blame him?
Wait, he has... Whoa!
I mean, shit! The guy's legs got destroyed. He's bitter and depressed.
Destroyed.
He's bitter and depressed.
You just specifically know that they're just so mangled like ground beef.
Yeah. Oh. Oh. A woman dies of an unnamed disease that is implied to be AIDS. Yeah, it's definitely AIDS.
So actually, it was supposedly hepatitis. One of the producers or directors said so.
Really?
Full-blown hepatitis.
Huh. A woman dies of cancer. That would be his mom. So, that is Forrest Gump's Parents Guide. So if you're going to let your kids watch this movie, that is what they're in for.
You know what's messed up? It doesn't mention that his mother fucked Mr. Gorpley so he could get into school. And they just don't find anything wrong with that.
Apparently not. They only find...
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you want your kid with an IQ of 70 to get bumped up 10 points so that he can get into regular school. You gotta fuck a few Mr. Gorpleys.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah, that is.
It's a large difference in ability.
Oh, certainly. Well, she said, he was like anybody else.
Well, she wasn't wrong, but at the same time, she was trying to be a burden on the impoverished district they lived in.
That's true. I'll tell you who's not a burden. This week, we're doing a little promo swap. I'm not sure exactly when our promo is going to appear on their podcast, but I will let you know when that happens. But we are proud to present a promo for the Movie Geek and Proud podcast. There are a couple of guys that talk about movies. They have unique takes on what they like in their movies, and they look at things through the lens of basically kind of homosexual issues and stuff like that. Whether it's people homosexuality being jokes in movies or actual homosexual characters in movies. That's not all they do, obviously, but that's a big part of what makes them unique, and it offers a different perspective for people on movies. And if you are homosexual, it offers you someone that can kind of put word to what you think about when it comes to films, because they're both very smart and articulate gentlemen. I listen to their podcast all the time, and I will edit in their promo right here. Seamless transition.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Sean.
And we are
Movie Geek and Proud,
a movie podcast where two gay movie geeks review current and older movies of all genres, good and bad. We also pick titles and share our opinions on films that are either not well known or guilty pleasures, but we are proud of our taste and encourage all other movie geeks to do the same.
And it's not just movie reviews on our show. We play games, trivia, movie drafts, we have guests come on, and even the occasional skit.
You can listen to our show on your favorite podcast apps, including SoundCloud, Podbean, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter at MGNP Podcasts. And remember, every movie has at least one fan.
You're so cheesy.
What? How's that cheesy?
And every movie does not have at least one fan.
I say it does, and you can't prove it doesn't.
You can't prove it does.
Yes, I can. That's why we're doing this show. It's like every time you want to start with me, I don't understand.
No, you
Yes,
can't.
you
Stop
can.
saying-
I'm
No,
telling
you're
you, they always have to
ridiculous.
do-
You always do this.
Movie Geek and Proud, a new episode every Wednesday.
So that was the Movie Geek and Proud podcast. Like I said, they're going to air a promo for us in the next couple of weeks or so. This is something they do a lot where they kind of swap promos with people. So I know we're on the list. But Mike and I have done our part and sent our stuff in. But definitely give them a listen. I'm a neophyte and a moron, so I listen on Apple podcasts. I know a lot of people don't like that thing for whatever reason, but it works well for me. I don't know what complaints people have, but that's where I listen to them. But they're everywhere. They're on Stitcher. They're on Google Play. Anywhere that you can listen to us, you can find the Movie Geek and Proud podcast, and I like listening to them a lot. So give them a listen and let them know that we sent you. But Mike, before we get into our main topic of the day, I have decided to return to the world of comic books for this edition of Educating Mike. And I don't think this is one that you've seen, but it has some elements of stuff that you might like. This is the Avengers, the Marvel superhero team. This is the Avengers number 239, the Avengers on Late Night with David Letterman.
No, I haven't seen that one.
This is a comic that came out in 1984. So David Letterman was still on NBC, still doing the show after. Actually, it was quite early in his tenure there, doing the show after the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and we begin with apparently, and I haven't read a lot of the ones before this, but apparently Hawkeye had been in some shenanigans before this episode, because he comes back to the mansion holding I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I'll get to it. But he's his wife. He's carrying her across the threshold.
The Scarlet Witch?
No, it's she's also a bird-related superhero. But so Hawkeye comes in and says, "Hey everybody, your wandering boy Hawkeye has come home, and you'll never guess what I gone and done." Apparently, at some point, Hawkeye was Southern-ish, I guess. I don't know. But he says, "Here we are, hun, across the threshold of our home away from home. How do you like it?" She says, "It's quite fancy, but there's nobody here." So no one's in the mansion. And this is kind of a heads up that this is going to be sort of the B-list Avengers team, because the Vision appears as a disembodied head. And he explains to him that they had a run-in with a villain who disabled his body, and Howard Stark was able to fix things so that he could float his consciousness could float as a dismembered or disemboweled entity, basically, and while his body is being repaired in a machine. It's also another way to get the most powerful Avenger out of the way, because if this thing that they face, this villain that they face, if Vision was there, it would last about 2 seconds. But Vision asks him who the girl is and everything, and the Vision. It's also, Hawkeye. This is also played for laughs a little bit, in his last adventure, he suffered some hearing loss, so he has problems hearing. But he tells him that he went on an adventure, met this girl, and they just got married. Basically, they've known each other for all of 24 hours, and they decided to get married. So that's what you want. I'm sure that relationship won't crash and burn. But
Probably not.
But anyway, so the Vision explains to him that most of the rest of the Avengers are on the West Coast dealing with personal matters, and that he can just kind of hang out here and everything. And so he decides to hang out with his wife. And then the phone rings, and it is Wonder Man. I think that's his name. Yeah. And he's calling. He has I don't know how much you know about him, but his alter ego is a Hollywood actor. And his agent has decided that the fact that he's a reserve Avenger is good enough reason to book him on David Letterman's show. And he wants him to bring some other Avengers along with him. So he calls up Vision, and Vision says, okay, we'll get right on that. So he puts the call out to, and no offense to these Avengers, but they definitely were B-listers back in the day. He puts the call out to Wakanda for some reason to call Black Panther in. Black Panther says, of course he'll come. The Beast from the X-Men calls him in. Black Widow calls her in. And then we switch to just a few hours later, elsewhere in the city. There's a guy working on a big souped-up car here, all right? And his dad comes in and says, well, I figured I'd find you in your workroom. So if you're working on your machines again, maybe are you planning some more mischief? And he says, Fabian, I'm glad your poor mother didn't live to see what's become of you. It would break her heart. And he says, oh, give me a break, old man. I'm the one that won the state lottery. And I get to decide how I'm going to spend this money. So it's a guy who won. The villain of this comic book is a guy who won the state lottery and decided that what he was going to do with all that money that he won is to just make mischief. There is no other motivation behind this. So we see on the TV, David Letterman comes on and says, hey, I'm David Letterman. And you won't want to miss late night tomorrow when my guests will be the Avengers. So he takes this as a springboard to, okay, I'm going to fuck up the Avengers appearance on David Letterman. So somehow, I don't know how he does this, but he ends up getting tickets to David Letterman's show. I would think that those would be, kind of a few days in advance or something like that. But he gets the tickets, and everyone kind of shows up, these B-list Avengers. And, they're ready to appear on the program, and we see the villain kind of disguise. First, he disguises himself as a maintenance worker so that he can put his stuff into place. And then he puts on a fake beard and some fake clothes to be an audience member. No one knows this guy or what he looks like. Why does he have to disguise himself to just be a regular audience member? It makes no sense to me. But anyway, so Hawkeye and his group get into, they get backstage. They're in the green room. They're ready to go. David Letterman comes out, and first of all, they've got the gap between the teeth and everything. It's a pretty good likeness of David Letterman. But I have to imagine that David Letterman didn't have a ton to do with this comic because the jokes are just painful. There are some really bad jokes in here. And, he says, oh, we've got something special tonight. Paul says, Yes, hard to believe, isn't it? But with all due respect to Mr. White, I can't remember who he's talking about there, some other guest. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. He says, in fact, it's probably the most special show since we had our Camping with Barry White episode. Which is like, why? How is that funny? But he says, so no respect to Mr. White, but I think you'd all agree that this is a great moment in TV history. And it's the Avengers, and all the Avengers have come out, and they're sitting there. So it's Wonder Man, Beast Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Black Panther. So just the real dregs of the Avengers. At least, especially for this era. Obviously, Black Panther is more popular now, but I would say that even Black Widow and Hawkeye, even now, are, like, they're the weakest Avengers for sure. But so anyway, they start talking, and the Avengers have always tried to maintain a healthy reserve, because he's like, oh, there's, this isn't even the whole team. There's a lot of you, right? Almost suggesting like, hey, I thought I was going to talk to Iron Man and Thor and stuff, And they're like, oh, we've got a lot of reserves and everything. And Beast says that he's forming his own group, the Defenders, which anyone that is familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe knows the Defenders was a show that was on Netflix, part of the Netflix arm of the MCU, which is probably not going to happen anymore because all those shows are canceled now. But Beastman was not part of that. But I keep calling him Beastman, but it's really just Beast, because Beastman was the He-Man villain, right?
Something like that, I think it was.
But he says, so Hawkeye says, oh, that's a bombshell that, we just dropped here. And so David Letterman says, first question. And he says, well, David, the Avengers is a non-profit organization fully sanctioned as a peacekeeping force and just about every international organization you could think of. And they've got the whole hee, like, that David Letterman laugh. He goes, you don't say. And he goes, I was just about to ask you something along those lines. You wouldn't be psychic by chance. And, of course, Hawkeye has no powers other than being able to shoot an arrow. And he says, oh, no, I don't, a lot of the founding members are psychic, but not me. And he says, oh, I heard you were recently married. And he says, yeah. So the guy sitting in the audience speaks for the entire comic book reading world when he says, I've had enough of this. And he clicks something on his watch, and one of the cameras starts shooting out a laser beam. So a lot of the rest of this is some extended fight scenes where there's lasers shooting around. There's a bunch of other stuff, firing, and the Avengers are trying to fight against it. So Fabian, this villain, he comes down from the audience, and then he sits in the chair next to David Letterman, and he says, good evening, Dave. You don't have to worry anymore. It's safe in here. And David says, well, that's certainly reassuring. And who might you be? And he says, I'm Fabian Stankiewicz. I created the machines that have the Avengers helpless. And David says, is that so? And then there's a thought bubble of him thinking, I'd better humor this twitzo until a security team can get here. So Fabian says, it's a real thrill to be here. And David says, for me too. And then he's like, why are you doing this, basically? And he says, to prove it could be done. To show the one incredibly gifted individual can accomplish anything. And he says, to get your name in the papers? And he goes, yeah, that too. So he's looking for fame, I guess. Like, I don't understand. He says, I want to make a name for myself. I want to make a name for myself as big as the Avengers. And David says, it seems to me that Stankiewicz is already a pretty big name. So then he starts monologuing about, all this stuff. Like, basically, he just wants to be famous. So this seems like such a ridiculous, convoluted play. He could have done so many more things to be famous than villainy. But he reveals that they're covered by a force field and nothing can get in where he and David are sitting at the desk because that's a force field generated by something on his belt. And so David Letterman says, "Oh, that's great." And he goes, "Do you have any other weapons on you right now?" And he's like, No. He's like, "Don't worry, you're totally safe, Dave." So Dave says, "Oh, in that case," he picks up a giant doorknob. Now, this is maybe the most believable thing in this comic book, that David Letterman during this era would have a giant doorknob. But it's a doorknob basically half the size of David Letterman. And he uses it to slam him in the head, which, I mean, he doesn't die, but that would definitely kill him. And then he takes the thing off of his belt and says, "Okay, the Avengers, you can get him now." And the Avengers end up destroying all of his things, all of his gadgets. And the guy goes, "It took me months to build these things, and you destroyed them in less than 5 minutes." And then he has a thought bubble that says, "Everyone's forgotten about me," even though he just shouted that. Everyone's forgotten about me, so I should take advantage of that. But then Hawkeye's wife shows up and says, "Oh no, you're going to jail." So she throws him at a bunch of cops, and they arrest him. And David Letterman says, "Oh, you're gonna love this show." So they're sitting down, they're ready to watch the show and everything. And then a special news bulletin comes up, interrupting the show so that nobody gets to see it because a chemical barge has is in the East River, barreling out of control. By the way, the East River is maybe the most polluted waterway on the planet. So a chemical barge sinking on there is not going to really make much of a difference. But the B-grade Avengers say that they're going to go out to stop it, and that is where our comic ends. I assume it probably picks up after that with whatever they do with this chemical barge. But very ridiculous. A very ridiculous comic, ridiculous plot.
Seems very odd.
Yeah, it was not a great one. But before we get into the main topic, we have two things we need to do. Those of you who have been paying attention on Facebook and Twitter and everything know that we have a giveaway that we're doing, and we're going to do it live tonight on the air here, and you will hear it when this comes out on Thursday. It's kind of like it's live to you when you're listening to it for the first time, even if it's 10 years from now. But before we do that, we are going to read an ad because ads aren't just a way for us to pay for the show. They're the heart of America, and I think too often people forget about how great ads are. So we're going to do an ad now as a special treat for you guys. All this month, obviously, we are promoted and sponsored by Collector Mount. It's not just a way to, string up your enemies and lead to murder and stuff like that. The CEO of Collector Mount doesn't advocate that you use his products to kill people, but he wants you to use them to hang up those forgotten things. The DVDs and the old records and the Blu-rays and the laser discs. If you ever were a millionaire and had a laser disc from 1988 to 1989, but all the great artwork and all that stuff, especially the records, they're a lost art now, and they just sit in your closet. So order some Collector Mounts and mount them up on your wall. I'm telling you, it transforms how a room looks. It makes it, I'm getting some. I'm gonna put up, Van Halen records. I'm gonna put up some movies that I like, and then when people come in, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna say, "Hey, That's quite a thing there. What is that? Where'd you get that from? And I'm going to tell him that I went to collectormount.com, and it's only $4.99. $4.99 gets you started. Okay? Now, I have to read this verbatim, Mike, this part. But
Sure.
this show is sponsored by Collector Mount, introducing the new DVD, movie, Blu-ray mount. With the Collector Mount products, you can now mount it all. You can now display movies, DVDs, Blu-rays, magazines, trading cards, albums, comic books, CDs, books, and video games. There are 5 different mounting options to choose from. The DVD, movie, Blu-ray mount is a clear, adjustable display frame system. You can get those movies up on your wall or onto any flat surface, as it can be used as either a wall mount, which is adjustable, or a shelf stand. It's the perfect display option and also pops your collectible off the walls, driving a cool 3D effect in the design. It's invisible, it's easy to install, it's adjustable, and it's affordable at just $4.99. You have to check these out. Now, if you are a listener of our show, and if you're not, I have no idea how you're hearing us right now, but Collector Mount is offering for Mike and my listeners 25% off. All you have to do is use the coupon code LATEFEE25. So when you go to Collector Mount and you order your Collector Mount, use the code LATEFEE25 and you will get 25% off your order. Already the low price of $4.99. It is the best deal in mountable, collectible things that's out there. You have to check it out. Go to collectormount.com. You can also see links, swallow links below this, and there will be links on our social media accounts where you can do that. Now, as a lot of you know, I'm sure, we have a contest. And the contest ended yesterday to allow us to do this today. So, we got a lot of good response to this. We'll probably do something like this again at some point in the future, but we were in the thousands as far as entries go for this contest, and we are going to. I'm just getting to the page right now. We are going to draw a winner. There we go. All right. Now, the prize is a $100 gift card to Amazon, which will be emailed to the winner tomorrow. And, you know, this was like I said, it was a very successful contest. I'm glad you guys had fun with it. We'll probably do something like it again. Maybe you can go to Twitter at Massive Late Fee and let us know what kind of prize you would like. Should we do money again? Should we do something more like, Blu-rays or movies or something like that? Do you want a movie pass for as long as Movie Pass stays out there for the next 2 months or whatever? Oh, God, Movie Pass. But anyway, getting to the winner. So we are drawing right now. One winner. It's working. Okay, our winner's name is Eileen Boyce. I will not give out your, wow, it's an, okay, I don't know if this is a valid email address anymore or not, because it's a at AOL.com email address. Are there still at AOL.com email addresses? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have Eileen's,
Hotbot.
No, it's her Twitter handle. I have her Twitter handle on here too. So in case I need to get a hold of her that way, I just don't want to. But she is from Wheeling, West Virginia, in the United States. What?
Nice.
Yeah. And she is the winner of our $100 contest. So Eileen, I will be giving you, I'll probably send you an email. Hopefully that goes through to at AOL.com. If it does not, I will contact you on Twitter. I'll actually probably do both things. Hopefully you're listening. But I will be contacting you, and I will be sending you the Amazon $100 gift card. So that is our winner, Miss Eileen Boyce, Wheeling, West Virginia, USA. She won by retweeting our tweets. There were several different ways that you could enter. That was one of them, and that is what she did that caused her to be picked as the winner. So that is our contest, and on to our main topic. Mike, you have not seen Holmes and Watson, correct?
I have not.
I have not seen Holmes and Watson. There are certain ways that movies can be seen, whether you go to the theater or you watch them from the comfort of your home. And sometimes I like to watch movies from the comfort of my home because I'm a shut-in. And this one was not, I couldn't watch it from the comfort of my home. And from what I've heard, I'm not going out and paying $10 or $15 or whatever it is to watch it in the theater. So, we did not watch Holmes and Watson. But in the spirit of the probably unfortunately horrible Holmes and Watson movie, Mike and I have decided that we are going to talk about the films of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, the stars of that movie. And I guess the best place to start would be the first movie that they did together, which I believe was Talladega Nights, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, Mike, you want to walk us through Talladega Nights?
Sure. The premise of Talladega Nights is that Will Ferrell's character, Ricky Bobby, from a very young age, is wanted to be a championship race car driver. His dad was like a moonshiner or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, he kind of has it in his blood. Him and his friend Cal Naughton Jr., played by John C. Reilly, work as a pit crew for a NASCAR team. Then the driver just, I can't remember exactly what he does. He goes to get some chicken and just never comes back. So naturally, they throw Will Ferrell to the driver's seat, and he comes back and wins the race. So he becomes like a famous, probably the best NASCAR racer in the world. And then he's challenged by the sudden emergence of a Frenchman played by
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron, thank you.
Yep.
He drives a Perrier car actually, but he's actually gets into an altercation with Ricky Bobby, and he breaks his arm. And then while Ricky Bobby's recovering, the Frenchman Jean Pierre is just taking over the sport of NASCAR.
Yeah, and obviously it'd be spoilers from there, but yeah, and I like this movie a lot, and it's funny because this is not really the type of movie that I would usually like, I don't think. The humor is, there's some, it's not entirely a dumb humor movie though. There's some smart jokes in here, but it's a really well-written film, and Sacha Baron Cohen is great. I love Sacha Baron Cohen a lot, and we really get to see the chemistry between Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, which is palpable. But I really enjoy this movie a lot. It's one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies for sure.
Yeah, it was something that I didn't want to see when I saw the previews for it, but it was on cable at some point, and I just happened to watch it, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of solid jokes, Like you said, the interplay between John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell. Also, the cast is pretty amazing. Gary Cole plays Will Ferrell's father.
Yep.
Jane Lynch plays his mother, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know his name, but he was actually on Justified. He played the father in the John C. Reilly movie Walk Hard.
Oh, yeah. The wrong kid died.
Yep. Yeah, he plays the grandfather, and he's hilarious. There's like one of my favorite scenes is they have I think it's Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner, and just like the whole dialogue there is just hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very solid movie. I mean, there's a lot of really good performers. I mean, Molly Shannon's in it. The guy from Will and Grace, maybe? He plays her husband. Is that where he's from?
No,
I don't think it's Will and Grace. Some other one of those shows that I'll never watch.
I'm trying
Michael
to,
Clark Duncan's in it.
yeah, Michael Clark Duncan's. And I like Gary Cole a lot too. I'm trying to think who. I know Elvis Costello's in it for like very briefly.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yep. David Koechner, is that who you're talking about?
That's not who is he? He might be the team. No, it was a team owner's son. I can't remember who plays him.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh, I can't think of his name, but I know I can picture his face.
Yeah, he might know. He was on Ally McBeal. That's a show he was on, but I just don't. I never watched it. I just saw him in the previews.
Yeah, Andy Richter's in it too.
Yeah, Andy Richter, the Swedish German.
Yeah, that's
There's a lot of really funny people in the movie. The movie's very solid all throughout.
yeah,
There's really not any parts that even like slow it down. I wouldn't say.
yeah, for sure. Greg. Oh, it's funny because the guy's name is Greg German. Not
That's
not
funny.
Swedish German, but Greg German. But yeah, he was on Ally McBeal. That's right. But yeah, he's one of those guys that when you see him, you're like, oh yeah, I know who that is.
I know that fucking face.
Yeah. But yeah, like incredible cast. I mean, like Amy Adams is in the cast. There's a lot of people, that either went on to become famous or were famous and really solid comedians that are in that movie. Definitely a one you want to check out, even if you've kind of avoided it because you're like, oh, it doesn't really look like my type of humor. It's a solid movie. It's not the best movie they've done together, because the best movie they've done together is the next movie they did together, Step Brothers.
Yeah, that is. I love that movie, Step Brothers. That's another one I didn't have any expectations for with the previews, but when I saw it, it was like immediately one of my favorite movies. It's just perfect. It's like hilarious. It's a ridiculous premise. They're both funny in it. I mean, it's just a great movie all throughout. The cast again is amazing.
And it's worth pointing out that both films were directed by Adam McKay, who
Yeah, I think he's a long time. He directs a lot of Will Ferrell, and he's like his writing partner. He was on SNL writing at the same time Will Ferrell was a performer.
yeah, and Adam McKay is very good, a very good writer and director. He did Anchor.
Also, one of the founding members of the Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, he directed both movies, and Step Brothers is another one that has a pretty good cast. There's Richard Jenkins, who's another one of those. Oh, that guy. He was in the fish fucking movie. that one Best Picture. Mary Steenburgen's in it. Adam Scott and Catherine Hahn. I like Adam Scott a lot. He's one of those guys that there are lots of stuff. There's lots of things that he does that are sort of under the radar that I really like. There's this thing, I don't know if you ever saw it, Mike, but it's called The Greatest Event in Television History. Did you ever see it?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Okay, so it was on, I want to say it was on Adult Swim on the Cartoon Network. And it was like a little 15-minute long thing. So it's not even a full, half an hour thing. But he did 4 or 5 of them, I believe. And he got the guy that hosts Survivor. What's his name?
Jeff Probst.
Yeah, that's right. Jeff Probst hosts it. And basically, it's every time they do it, it's them. This is what the greatest event in television history is supposed to be. They reenact, and you can find it on YouTube. They reenact an opening from a different television show. The first one they do is Simon and Simon, and Adam Scott created this, and he's in every one of them. But Adam Scott and John Hamm do the Simon and the opening sequence to Simon and Simon. The next one is Heart to Heart with Amy Poehler, Horatio Sands, and Adam Scott. The one after that is Too Close for Comfort, which has Catherine O'Hara, Chelsea Peretti, who's on that Brooklyn Nine-Nine show. Catherine Hahn, John Glazer, and Jason Mantzoukas, I think is how you pronounce his name. A lot of people might not know the name, but if you've ever watched the League, he's the one that plays Raffi, the brother-in-law that that everyone hates. And then the last one they did was Too Close for Comfort with Adam Scott and Paul Rudd, which also, and I'm not even going to say, because you should. There's some cameos in here that are great in this last one, but you should check out this thing. It is hilarious, and there are several. It's because it's so ridiculous. First of all, the idea that this would be the greatest event in television history, but even more, like, there's so many ridiculous lines, like John Hamm during the Simon and Simon shoot, for some reason, just keeps getting colder and colder, despite the fact that it's warm outside, and he can't seem to get warm. And then there's a thing where it says John Hamm died later that night. And then he comes back in the Too Close for Comfort episode because for some reason Adam Scott can't sit. It's one of the things that he can't do. And he has a special chair made up for him that makes it look like he's sitting, but he's really just crouching. But he can't use that for the shoot for whatever reason. And so John Hamm comes back as a ghost, looking kind of like a Force ghost from Star Wars, where he's like, John, you're back. And he's like, yeah, apparently I came back to help you sit. And the way he says it and everything in his voice is just perfect. But, so they go through the whole thing. He gets him to sit. And then Jeff Probst comes on and he goes, so Adam could finally sit, which is great news. But I gotta say, not as great as the news that we now have proof that ghosts exist. And he's like, and he goes, we got a fucking ghost, y'all. or we got proof of a fucking ghost, y'all. And it's just, I don't know, the whole thing is, it's one of those things that's completely silly, but hilarious. So I like a lot of what Adam's, not that any of this has anything to do with Step Brothers, but I like a lot of what Adam Scott does. But basically, Step Brothers, Will Ferrell's mom, who's played by Mary Steenburgen, gets married to Richard Jenkins, who is John C. Reilly's dad. And at first, they hate each other and everything. And then, during a basically kind of like a montage scene and everything, they find, and they're both like immature guys that, they don't work, they're very much alike, where they just have all these dreams and they don't do anything to help the family or anything like that. But they discover that they really love each other, and the rest of the movie is kind of them, bonding and everything. It's really, the movie has a plot, but a lot of it is just an excuse for Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly to do funny things together, which is great. And this is like, as far as comedies go, this is probably in my top 5. Would you put it this high, Mike?
Yeah, it's hilarious. I love this movie. There's so many quotable parts, great cameos. I mean, just all the performances are great. It's one of my favorite comedies for sure.
And it's, that's funny. The how quotable it is really a good kind of indication, because it means that the writing is very solid and worth, making people laugh just with the writing of the movie. And I can't think of the last comedy. I mean, it might be Step Brothers, the last comedy that was true for. I mean, and it's worth noting this movie is over 10 years old now, because it came out in 2008. But there's not a lot of comedies that have come out recently where it's like people quote them a lot, because there aren't a lot of comedies with really great writing, and this has excellent writing. And that's a big a big part of making a successful comedy, obviously, or with any movie, but especially I think comedies really rely on writing. And I think that's part of why that Ghostbusters reboot was so bad. Because it was
I
just,
didn't think it was. I didn't think it was terrible. I saw it on HBO or something.
oh, I hate it so much. It's just so stupid. And I think the problem with it is it's just a bunch of ad-libbing. And because it's a bunch of ad-libbing, they don't really have any characters. Like for a movie like that, I mean, you can make a movie where it's like 90% ad-libbed, and those are those Judd Apatow movies like Knocked Up and stuff like that are about mundane things and stuff, and you can ad-lib your way through that. That's fine. But a movie like Ghostbusters, you need a solid basis of jokes because you really need to establish the characters. Yeah, I mean they all try to be the quote funny one. You know what I mean? And it's just it doesn't work for me. I don't think there are any jokes I laughed at in the movie at all.
I thought the part that I thought was the funniest was when Chris Helmsworth maybe
Okay, yeah.
was like showing off his various logos for his companies, and they were just like progressively more offensive. That to me was pretty funny.
Yeah, that part I will agree with that. That part was pretty humorous, and the whole I don't know why, maybe because it was so dumb, but I don't know why it made me laugh. But the whole Mike Hat thing, where he's talking about his dog, and his dog's name is Mike Hat. But
Yeah. Did you find the original Ghostbusters to be funny though?
oh yeah, I know you don't like Ghostbusters. The original Ghostbusters might be my favorite comedy of all time.
See, I don't really find it funny at all, like that, or obviously the sequel. They just don't seem funny to me.
And it's so weird to me that you don't think it's funny because the humor of that movie seems to me like the exact type of humor that you like, which is very like dry, sarcastic type humor, So yeah, it really surprises me that you don't like that one. But yeah, I like that the original Ghostbusters. And here's the thing: it has nothing to do with them being women or men or whatever. I think if they redid it, first of all, if the script was the same, it doesn't matter who was in it; it would still be bad. And the actresses in the Ghostbusters movie are talented. I've liked a lot of stuff they've done in the past, but they were really let down here because they didn't write a good script. But yeah, and I think making them women was the best thing that they could have done, because I think if they went with guys, then they would have been way more compared to the original movie, and it wouldn't have been able to be successful. I don't think because they would have been like, oh, this guy's not Bill Murray. If they tried to do something like that. But doing it with women, I thought was good because women obviously have different comic sensibilities. They look at things in different ways. They make different types of jokes, and I thought that was a great idea. Unfortunately, Paul Feig and the woman that he works with, whose name escapes me, that wrote on this, and I think she wrote The Heat and a couple other things with him. They did not write a good script, so I did not like it. But anyway, back to Step Brothers. So there are so many funny parts of this movie and so many different funny lines. And it's another one that's like, Phil Lamar is in this movie. He does a lot of voiceover work and stuff. He used to be on Mad TV and everything. And he's he's hilarious. And Matt Walsh and Rob Riggle, a lot of guys that, different people that came up, in the world of comedy that are on in this movie. And Adam McKay seems to work with a lot of those types of people. From like stand-up comedy and improv comedy and stuff like that. And, just a fantastic film. But maybe, I'll tell you, you mentioned it earlier, my favorite movie featuring John C. Reilly is Walk Hard.
I just saw that again this weekend.
I love that. That movie is so funny to me. There are so many great lines in that movie. It's it's the perfect parody of those types of movies because, around that time was when Walk the Line and Ray came out, and there were, Hollywood seems to go through these cycles where they do the same types of movies. A bunch of different studios do the same types of movies, and that was an era where they were doing like musical biopics and or biopics of people from music, and it's the perfect parody of those types of movies. And it's just it's another one that's so smartly written. John C. Reilly is great in it. Jenna Fisher is hilarious in the movie. And another Tim Meadows.
Yeah, he's really good in that.
Tim Meadows is sort of overlooked. I remember we talked about Chris Rock before, and we talked about how Chris Rock is really not that great of an actor. Great stand-up, but not that great of an actor, which I think is absolutely true. Tim Meadows is sort of... I haven't really seen any of Tim Meadows I don't think Tim Meadows has really done stand-up, as far as I know. Obviously,
he's more of an improv guy. I'm not really sure, though.
Yeah, obviously he was on Saturday Night Live and stuff like that. But Tim Meadows is one of those where I think he's both hilarious and a good actor. And I really love him in this movie. But, that...
Yeah, I was just watching some Norm Macdonald videos earlier, and he actually said, I was reading this interview in Rolling Stone, and he at the time said Tim Meadows was the funniest cast member of SNL, like in 97.
Yeah, I wouldn't, that's an opinion I would not disagree with. I think he's the best. He is hilarious. And I've loved a lot of things that he's done before. But
Alan Park, Michigan's own.
Yeah, that's right. But the late Harold Ramis is, in this movie. He plays one of the producers. Yeah. The very stereotypical Jewish producers. This goes on a journey, like a real big journey, that takes him from, decade to decade and everything. But it's just great. And Jake Kasdan directed this. He's the son of Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote some of the Star Wars movies, most notably The Empire Strikes Back. And he's also a screenwriter and director now. And Judd Apatow and Jake Kasdan wrote the screenplay to this. And I mean, it's when Judd Apatow sits down to write, especially with another talented person like Jake Kasdan, I'm telling you, he makes some of the best comedies out there. And this movie is just phenomenal. And here's the thing, it's hard to critique comedies because there's only so many ways that you can say it's funny or if it was bad, it just isn't funny. Because that's obviously the live or die thing with comedies. But this movie is hilarious. I loved it. You got any more Will Ferrell or John C. Reilly movies you want to talk about?
No, Walk Hard was about it. I mean, like my favorite part, I don't know why, but I really love when I'm watching something like a biography kind of movie. And there's like a famous person depicting another famous person. Like I'm always like obsessed with who they'll choose.
Oh, yeah.
And Walk Hard has like some hilarious choices. Like my favorite, actually it's not my favorite, but Frankie Muniz plays Buddy Holly.
Yep, that's right.
Jack White is Elvis is great. Like I would say that's my favorite, but I think my actual favorite is the Beatles.
Yeah.
With what is it? Paul Rudd, Jason Schwartzman, Jack Black, and some other guy.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Who else?
Justin Long.
That's right. Yeah, Justin Long. Yeah, and those are all really good choices, actually, too. Yeah. In the context of this movie, being a comedy and everything. But
And it's funny how I had read about like the movie, and I guess Jack Black had like the worst British accent, so they made him be Paul for some reason, which was just weird. He sounds Scottish if you pay attention to it.
yeah, yeah, he really does. Oh, hey, I found the name of that guy, Raymond J. Barry.
Nice.
That's the still alive too, so good for him. 79. That's the guy that plays his dad and is in the Ricky Bobby movie as well. He's
and Justified.
yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in The Goodbye Girl, in some movie called Cop, which came out in 1988. There was no movie named Cop before then. Oh, yeah, and I remember him in this, The Ref. You remember that movie with Dennis Leary?
I've never seen it.
Oh, that's another one of my favorite comedies. And yeah, he plays one of the cops in that movie. He is hilarious in that as well. In that kind of I'm the straight man sort of way.
Sure.
Very good in that movie. But yeah, he's done a lot of work. Good for him. But yeah, Raymond J. Barry, that's the dad in Walk Hard. What do you think your favorite Will Ferrell movie is? Like no John C. Reilly, just Will Ferrell.
I honestly haven't really seen a lot of Will Ferrell movies, so I mean my favorite ones are is probably Step Brothers,
Right, yeah. Let me see. I know he was an Old School, which was
I like that too. But I mean, as far as like a starring vehicle for him, I can't really think of any that I have actually seen.
well, Anchorman. I mean, that's maybe the big one as far as him being a star.
That's okay, I guess. But the only part I really enjoy of Anchorman is when they have the fight with the other stations. Every time I watch that, I just crack up so hard.
Yeah, Anchorman's.
I'll watch the movie just to see that scene.
Anchorman's one of those movies that the first time I saw it, I didn't really like it. And then I saw it again, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm warming up to it.
Yeah, it does seem to grow on me the more I watch it.
Yeah. Let's see. So he was in Old School. Elf. I like Elf. It's a little bit of a different sort of comedy, but I like watching that with my kids around Christmas time. Anchorman, Starsky and Hutch, which I did not see.
I saw that. It was not good.
The Wedding Crashers, which he's obviously not a star in.
I didn't see that.
He was funny in Bewitched. Did you
really? Because I heard that was bad. I just didn't see it.
It's not a good movie, but he's funny in it. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about him, but he's. I thought he was humorous in the movie, but the movie itself is not very good. Oh, here's the answer for me. This is because I like this movie a lot. This isn't really a comedy, or at least not a standard comedy. But the movie that Will Ferrell's in that I like the most is called Stranger Than Fiction.
Okay, I've seen previews for that. It looks interesting. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, the premise of the movie is that it's kind of weird because he both exists in the real world, but he is also, his life is being written and controlled by Emma Thompson, who is a writer. And the thing is it's made clear at one point in the movie that they live like it. The world what she's writing about isn't like a world all of its own. He exists in the world she exists in. Just for some reason, she happens to be writing his life story without knowing it and controlling everything that happens in his life. So it's a very interesting premise. And it's a movie that I like a lot. Maggie Gyllenhaal is in the movie as well. Dustin Hoffman and Queen Latifah, and obviously Emma Thompson, as I said, and that's a good one. Blades of Glory. I've seen that. It's okay. It's almost the opposite of Anchorman for me on that one. That's one that the first time I saw it, I said, "Oh, this is very funny," and then subsequent times watching it, thinking that's not as good as I thought. Semi-Pro, which has the Michigan connection because they play for the Flint Tropics.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. It didn't look even a little interesting to me.
It's okay. I mean, the thing is like I would put it firmly in the category of it's okay. The Other Guys, which is another Adam McKay movie, which I liked. It's it's not. I haven't. The funny thing is that's one that I haven't ever watched again after watching it for the first time. So it's a little hard to remember. But I do remember liking it. I do remember thinking it was funny.
Oh,
Megamind, which she plays the voice in, that was one of my daughter's favorite movies when she was about 5 years old, and I enjoy that movie too.
I haven't seen it.
Anchorman 2, which I haven't seen. The Lego Movie, which she's only in a little bit. Get Hard, which I saw maybe the beginning of, and I turned off because I was like, life is.
Like, ooh, that's not what I was expecting with that title.
Yeah, I see Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart and Allison Brie, and the movie's called Get Hard. I'm expecting something else. The House, which I also haven't seen. I think Amy Poehler's in that.
I haven't even heard of that one.
They convert their home to a like underground gambling place, an underground casino. And then Daddy's Home and Daddy's Home 2. I have not seen those either.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that is it for Will Ferrell. John C. Reilly obviously did some work on television. Maybe even more known for his television stuff than for his movie stuff at the beginning of his career. I'd say he's probably more known for his movie stuff now. But yeah, he did. He started way back in 1989 as a kind of serious actor. He was in Casualties of War, the Brian De Palma movie. He had a small part in Days of Thunder. He was in Hoffa. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? He was in that. So he did a lot of very kind of like serious movies, and I wouldn't say this was necessarily a breakout role, but he was in Boogie Nights, and I think that's kind of because he had
That's the first thing I recognize him from, really.
yeah, and I think he had a bit more of a prominent role. I mean, obviously still a character role in that movie, but a bit more of a prominent role in that movie, and I think that's kind of where people first started to notice him. And then he was in The Thin Red Line, the Terrence Malick movie, and A Perfect Storm, and he was in Magnolia. He was a little bit funnier in A Perfect Storm. He was sort of the comic relief character. But I mean, this is a good, like 10, 15 years into his career. And, he did more comedy stuff on television, where he was on, kind of like he played the Sasquatch in Tenacious D and stuff like that. And then obviously he was on the Tim and Eric Awesome Show, and stuff like that. But, and he did work on the stage as well, which not a lot of other comedians have done, like legitimate drama on the stage. But then he sort of started to get into more comic roles after he was in Talladega Nights, actually, honestly. Because before that, he did a lot of really serious stuff, like The Aviator and Gangs of New York. He was in that and everything. Mm-hmm. And then after that, he started to get into more stuff. But man, this guy, he's done a lot of movies. And then obviously he's the voice of Wreck-It Ralph, and he was a voice in Sing, which my kids know him from. And there's a movie called Stan and Ollie about Laurel and Hardy. Stan, Laurel, and Oliver Hardy. I for a second I thought it said Syphil and Ollie. and I got really excited that maybe they were making a Syphil and Ollie movie.
Oh no.
Oh, I don't know if any of you guys out there remember Syphil and Ollie, but it was on MTV way back when, and they were sock puppets that talked about rock facts for the most part.
Yeah.
And they talked to Deuce Loosely instead of Ace Frehley.
Yes. I bought those tapes off of I couldn't find it like an official release, so I bought like these dub tapes off of eBay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, I have a full day. I woke up at like 8 in the morning for some reason, and I sort of started pushing tapes into the machine.
Right.
But like 12 hours later, I was like, about halfway through because they're pretty short episodes. Then all of a sudden, the rest of the tapes just had no sound.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, there's no audio. I can't watch these anymore. I'm done.
Oh yeah, the audio is pretty important for Sith and Ollie. It can't get along by just the visuals alone.
I know.
Oh, all right. Well, that is our show for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, if you want to send a message to the show, you want to tell us how much we suck, or you want to tell us what you'd like to hear, something like that, you can send it to massivelatefee@gmail.com. You can find us at Twitter at massivelatefee. Massive Late Fee on Facebook. We're on Bandcamp. Oh, we just did an audio commentary for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which is on Netflix right now. So it's really easy to download that and just listen to that along with the movie on Netflix. It's at bandcamp.com at massivelatefee.bandcamp.com. All this will be linked below, as always. You can pay as little as $1 for it if you want to, whatever you want to pay. We check the pay however much you want thing. You can also listen to it just on the site itself for free if you don't feel like giving us money. But you should give us money so that we can continue to do the show. Speaking of that, you can also go to patreon.massivelatefee.com or patreon.com/massivelatefee and contribute to our become a patron. For as little as $1, you can enjoy some early releases of the show, some other perks that are fantastic. But we've enjoyed talking to you. We'll see you next week. I think next week, Mike, we haven't really come up with one next week, but I think next week I was thinking maybe we could do our most anticipated movies of the year. Just kind of go through the list of movies and what we're looking forward to.
Short list of my end.
But, we'll come up with something fun, and we'll talk to you next week. And special thanks to Collector Mount for sponsoring our episode. Thanks to Jason for the theme. Thanks to RJ and Leah and Miranda and anyone else who is on Patreon with us. Thanks for the support, everyone. And we will talk to you later. See you. Bye.
Later.